Hey guys, this is Ernesto and welcome back to yet another video. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm having a wonderful day. So today I'm going to go through my overall process of submitting my images to WPPI for the photo competition. So I'll talk about my image selection. I'll talk about the entire process. I'll talk about why I haven't submitted my images in the past and why I decided to do that now. So I'll go through the entire process, even cover the cost of what it costs to submit your images for a photo competition. So stay tuned and we're gonna get straight into it. All right guys, so let's get into why I haven't submitted my images in the past for a photo competition. Now, it's not that I've never been part of a photo competition. I have. I've been part of 2 competitions in the past here, locally here in North Carolina. So it was called Portrait Palooza. And the reason I really loved that format is because in that format, pretty much it's a really true photo competition in the sense that on the day of, you basically go into a room, all the photographers are in a room, they don't know what they're gonna shoot, they don't know who they're gonna shoot. It's basically a blind competition. No one knows what anyone else did. You just have to go and compete. You had 10 minutes to basically create an image as soon as they call you out of the room. And when you create that image, you submit those images to be judged. You pick the best ones and you submit those images to be judged. So those 2 competitions that I participated in year over year, I won both of those competitions. So I'm not adverse to photo competitions. The reason I was kind of adverse to the format that WPPI have, or not even just WPPI, but other photography related competitions, is that basically you would pick an image, any image that's within your portfolio that you like, and you would submit that image to be judged by fellow photographers that's in the industry, well-known photographers, established photographers, people that are masters in this industry, right? So it's being judged by your peers, which is the format that WPPI has. Now, the reason I was adverse to that is just because I felt it wasn't like a really true competition. It's like, I just want to be, looking in the eyes of my competition, be like, let's get this on, let's get this going. But, WPPI is not like that. It's you submit your images. But that's the reason why I didn't submit in the past. But this year I decided, you know what? I'm going out to WPPI. I was out there for a full agenda. I had a full agenda basically to go out there to create some images, the minute I basically got off the plane to the minute I left, I was basically doing photography, and you guys saw all those videos that I put out. Let's talk about the process that I went through of how I selected these images. So first of all, I was struggling. I was honestly struggling to figure out what images to select. The reason I was struggling with that is because, every photographer, including myself, are very critical when it comes to their work, okay? So when I'm looking at my images, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at it with a very critical eye, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good. I can't submit that. They would not look at this as a great image. So I was very critical and I was very hard on myself. So I decided to post something in the WPPI for Facebook group. So what I posted on there was basically saying, super nervous about submitting for the print competition. Never done it before. How do you narrow down what you believe to be your best to submit? I'm struggling with that decision. I got some really good feedback on that post on how to basically go about making your selection to submit. I got 3 points from one person that posted that really stuck with me and helped me with my decision process. So the first point the person made was, go to WPPI and watch the judging in your categories of specialty. Now, that was an invaluable comment, and I'll get back to that in a minute, or invaluable suggestion. So I'll get back to that in a minute. So the other thing was, pour over the previous winners in prior years of the award to get inspiration and feel of and a feel of what constitutes the best of the best. Also, very, very important. That's a very, very great tip that they gave. And I'm going to tell you why that is, because it went into my thought process on the images that I selected. The next was take classes from WPPI masters and establish a relationship. Those were the 3 points this person made. So let me go into the thought process of how I selected my image, right? So first thing I did, I went to my website. I started scrolling through, you know, the images that I put on my front page. What images did I put on my front page? Because if the images I put on my front page, that's obviously the images that I feel are the best images that I ever created. So I started going through all the images and using my critical, eye, just looking at it from a perspective of, okay, this is not my work. Let me just look at it from a perspective if another photographer came to me and said, hey, Ernesto, can you review my work and tell me what you think? And that's exactly what I did. I went through this with a very, very critical eye. Then I narrowed it down to a series of images that fit the category that I felt like was very strong images. So I selected those images. So that's the first thing I did. I selected those images, and the images that I selected are the ones that you see on the screen. So with the submission process, it's very straightforward. Now, another reason I haven't submitted my images in the past has to do with the fact that with WPPI competition, the rules are very strict in terms of how you need to print these images and whatnot. So that was for me a big struggle because I don't know how to print images properly. If I'm gonna print them, I'm gonna send it to a print warehouse to do the printing. But not only printing, you also had to present it in a certain way. It had to have like, these matted frames and whatnot. I didn't have the patience for any of that, so I haven't submitted images in the past. But this year, when I submitted these images, the process of printing these images and mounting them in the right size and presentation and all of that stuff was taken away from me, right? I didn't have to do any of those things. So they partner with another vendor who would do the printing. They will mount the images and they will mail the images to WPPI. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this makes this process even much more easier than before. So let me just go ahead and utilize that vendor to print these images. The cost of printing these images, or the cost of submitting the images to WPPI just to be part of the competition, was a little bit expensive because I waited longer than I needed to. So I'm going to break down the cost of what it costs to submit these images, and let me read it off here because I just want to make sure I can get it all right. So submitting these images to WPPI just for the competition cost $250 just to submit the images to WPPI. Again, that was a little bit on the high side because I waited on the last minute to submit these images. If you submitted these images a little bit sooner, it will cost a lot less. Well, not that much less, but less than $250. In addition to that, I had to pay for the prints. So printing these images. So printing these images cost $85 in total for both of these images, which included shipping. So in total, to submit these images and to print these images, it costs $335 to submit these images to be judged. Now, obviously, if you have a lot more images, it will cost a lot more money. So that's what the cost was. But now the images are now submitted to be reviewed. So you have to upload the images. So you have to upload the raw image, so the raw file, and also the final file. So I submitted both images. Now the images I submitted are the ones that's on the screen. Now, when I submitted it, immediately the very next day, I received an email from Melissa Guiones. If you guys know, she's Jerry Guiones' wife. So I received an email from her indicating, hey Ernesto, the images that you submitted are great, but they're very similar. in the sense that they weren't the same theme. So they weren't really following the rules of the competition. So that's another thing I should suggest when you're submitting your images, you know, review those rules, because if you're not following the rules, which is one of the things I didn't want to, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to participate in these competitions, because I was very afraid that printing these images, I would not get it right and it probably would get disqualified, and then all that money that I paid will go out the window. So, but anyway, she told me that, hey, these images are very similar, and it's against the rules. So you basically have to submit another image as opposed to, so you could keep one out of the two, but you need to submit another to replace one of those images. So I said, okay, thank you. And I sent her immediately that same day an email with the substitute image of, hey, what do you think about this particular image? Can I submit this for review? And she came back really quickly and said, yes, you can submit this image for to be judged. So now I had to reach out to the vendor that printed out these images and say, hey, I need you to stop the order because I need you to replace one of the images with this new one. So they did that. They were very accommodating, so I appreciate them for replacing that image. So now I'm good. Images are submitted and images are about to be printed and sent to WPPI. So fast forward, I'm in Vegas now. So now I'm in Vegas. I'm trying to follow the 3 points that that person in the Facebook group provided me, which was one of those points is, attend the judging, to, just to get a feel of how these guys, how the judges review images, how they score it, etc. But as I mentioned before, I had a very full schedule in Vegas when I was there. So I only had about maybe like 20-30 minutes to go to one of the judging. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to any of the judging that was part of my image. I wish I could. Another thing that's a good thing that WPPI do for the competition is that they send you emails notifying you, hey, your image is about to be reviewed. And at that point, you could quickly go to the room, to the conference room where your images is being reviewed for judging, and then you could sit in on it and hear what the feedback that the judges have to say. Unfortunately, like I said, my schedule was a little bit tight. I missed those emails. I wasn't really paying attention to it. And even if I did see the email, I probably wouldn't have been able to go anyways because I was out and about. So, but in any case, I went to one of the judgings and I took my family member with me. And as I'm there, he doesn't know anything about photography at all. So he was just curious about what is going on. So as the images were popping up, I was telling him, oh, this will be good, or that's not gonna score high, or this one is not gonna score great. And, as I was telling him, my thoughts on the images as they came up, and the judges had an opportunity then after that to basically make their comments about the image and say, what the images would score and whatnot. The judges' feedback were in line with the same type of feedback I was giving my family member, which I thought was very insightful. So it kind of gave me the confidence that I needed to say, hey, the images that I submitted may be, pretty good, because if my thoughts are in line with the judges' thoughts, then perhaps the images that I selected might be in line with their thoughts, and hopefully it will score high. So I said all of that to say that just going to the judging competition definitely gave me and opened my eyes to some insights into the judges and how they're thinking. So I would definitely recommend that you do that. All right, so now let's talk about how these images did, the ones that I submitted to be judged. So, and like I mentioned to you before, they do send an email, WPPI, they do send an email notifying you not only when your images is about to be judged, but also when it is judged and what score it receives. So you don't have to walk the trading floor aimlessly looking around to see, oh, what my image scored, right? So you get an email indicating to you what your scores were. Again, I totally missed that email because my schedule was packed. Now, there is a scale that the judges use to help them figure out what images receive an award and what images don't. So I'm gonna provide, I'm gonna put up on the screen the various ranges so you guys can see it. I won't read all of it. I'll just read the two categories that my images fall into. So the first image that I submitted received a score of 78. Now that fell into the range of 75 to 79. So for that range, it basically states no award, good saleable work consistent with standard professional practice. So that's summarized to basically, you could take a picture or you could create an image. That's basically what that summarized into. But you know, that one means that you're not getting an award essentially. Now the second image that I submitted received a score of 81. Now that is an award-winning image. It received a silver award, and I'm gonna read what that one means. So that one fell into the range of 80 to 84. That one is a silver award above average skill and technique in most areas. So now for that, I can basically, not that I couldn't before, because I mentioned it before, I won 2 other images in the past, but with that one, I can now say I'm an award-winning photographer because of that one image. Now, what's the funny thing about that image is that that wasn't one of the original images that I was gonna submit. If you remember, I said that I had to replace one of the images with another because there were 2 similar images that I submitted initially. So the image that I replaced one of those series with happened to be the image that won the award. In your review process, when you're reviewing images, be very careful of what images you select. Be very critical of the images that you select when you're submitting your images to be reviewed. If you don't have the eye to basically discern whether your work is good enough to submit for judging, or if you are so caught up, I guess, in your own thought process on what you believe your standard, your level of work is at, I would say reach out to some other photographers in the industry or your friends. You know, reach out to anybody else that can be very critical of your work and give you great feedback. Because if you cannot do that for yourself with your own images, then it's going to be very hard for your images to be, you know, judged properly, right? It's probably not going to receive the score that you want it to receive. So be critical of your own work when you submit it. Now, I could tell you the work that I submitted to be judged, the one that received the 78 score, I could probably tell you why the judges scored that way, although I wasn't in the room. But if I'm being critical of my own work, I believe the reason they may have not scored that image higher than it did was because of the lower part of the image. Now, in the lower part of the image, it has some darker spots. And if I had to guess, my guess would be that the reason they didn't judge it higher is because they wanted that image to be a complete silhouette. So complete red in the back, complete black on the subject, and that was it. That would have been my guess as to why they judged that image with a 78 and not higher. But in my reaction to that would be, well, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to create. But again, there's somebody else that's judging your work, and they are bringing their own thoughts and feelings to it and their own experience, and they would put their, you know, assessment on it. And that's another thing to pay attention to, because folks is gonna bring what they believe. So you have to look, when you're looking at your images, you have to look at your images from all angles, all critical angles. Like, if I'm just coming into this right now, what will somebody else think of this image when they're looking at it. And when I submitted an image, that was one of the thoughts that I had in my mind, but I thought like, oh man, they're gonna just look past that because they're gonna see, yeah, that was the overall vision, and that's what the creator wanted to do, which is me. But I guess they didn't look past that because that's why they didn't score it higher than they did. So that's all I would say, and that's all I wanted to cover in this video. So I just wanted to share with you guys not only the journey as to how I submitted the images, but really and truly why I submitted it and how you guys could go about submitting your own image. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Put some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Share this video with your friends and family. And guys, if you got this far in this video and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, well, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Thumbs up? I mean, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. It's been a while since I had a talking head video, but go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Put some comments down below. Share the video with your friends and family. And guys, thank you very much for watching these videos and sharing it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.